Hey all, welcome back to another episode of Boardroom to Backend, where we explore the minds of transformation and technology leaders who are shaping the future from front lines of IT strategy, innovation, and execution. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of speaking with Debesh, a seasoned technology executive with 2 decades of experience delivering data driven, omnichannel customer and associate experiences across major retailers and enterprises. From implementing AI-powered personalization at finish line to modernizing ERP and supply chain systems at the Container Store, Target, Fish has been at the heart of digital transformations that directly impact how businesses serve, scale, and succeed. He has led teams as small as 30 and as large as 300 and managed tech investments ranging from $1 million to over $20 million a year. And he brings a unique blend of deep technical expertise and strategic business acumen, having worked across both public and private companies. But beyond the boardroom, Debesh is a family man, a golfer, a fitness enthusiast, and someone who knows the value of staying grounded while leading change at scale. Debesh, welcome to the show. I'm excited to dive into your journey and unpack some of the transformational stories that have shaped your. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you and hopefully share something of value.
Thank you. So let us start at the very beginning, Devesh. So you have more than 2 decades in technology leadership, and again across different set of enterprises, both public and private. What early experiences has shaped your leadership style?
Experience standpoint, I have had the fortune of working in large, intense, complex projects and implementations. I have had the opportunity of working in like groundbreaking technology at that point in time that have helped shape some of my thought process or the style. Also, I had the opportunity of working with some great leaders and learning from their experience and their style of working and all that influence how I work today. It's a mix of everything comes together.
Any specific early career experiences that has left a very lasting impression on you? Like when you started just in your career, like were there any experiences or leadership lessons?
Yeah, I started off in actually in data processing after doing computer science and engineering. By the time we joined TCS, we were put for data processing in domestic projects in Chennai for TCS Data Consultancy. We were tasked, we were printing reports and running programs and taking it to our UTA clients' offices there. I think listening to the client and client service came out there right at the very beginning. I was not in a project that was kind of didn't know who the client is, given a spec to code. I happened to be in one just right out of college. Client interaction was very predominant. So that shaped how I looked at clients, and I think the thing that has lasted with me is I'm able to put myself in the shoes of the business. Then I think early on I got to be working on a project which was the first client server project at that time for TCS, and it was a project for the Gap Inc. And calling it the first client server because this was the 90s and going from mainframe to you actually spell it out and the data was sitting there some place and the UX was in different place. The experience there was this is like there's a front end developers, they were in like C, C++, Micro Focus COBOL, I think at that point, and then there's a back end and they will never like talk to each other. They're like different, almost they're from different planets. They treat each other very differently, they kind of think about each other very differently. And we had multiple programs. And the point in time I'm talking about is we were in Delhi TCS. Delhi had the front end developers, Chennai had the back end developers. I was from Chennai. And I was the DB2 mainframe guy. And by the time I reached, it so happened that they required somebody on the front end, and they actually put me on the OS2 side to work on the front end. And so I learned that, and I was working on the GUI part of it and all that. Each team, basically each module, they're trying to connect the front end to the back end and get data back and forth, and they were not successful. And I happened to be the first one. Me and my partner on the other side, who was also from Chennai, We happened the first one where we actually connected the front end and the back end, and got data. Basically it's a screen showing customer information, let's example, or some list box, and then we are able to pull data from DB2 into OS2 and display it on a GUI screen. And there was a movement of the hara movement, and everybody's like shouting, and it's a great success, and I can even close my eyes and see that movement. But what was the learning there? It was not about technology. It was about me and my friend working together and talking and making sure that we are two humans are talking to make it happen. And we were talking because I was from Chennai TCS and I was the back end guy, and I happened to be by chance on the front end guy, and so we had no barriers between us. And whereas all others are like, Chennai wale, these are folks from Chennai and these are folks from Delhi, and they don't talk to each other. So they're basically trying to struggling to communicate. Basic lesson is that human beings need to communicate. They need to talk, pick up the phone, or stand up and look across the aisle to say, hey, my program and your program are not connecting. Let's figure out where we're missing out. And that's what I learned, and I took that as a learning. And till this date, it happens. Testers will be documenting defect and sending it and emailing the person sitting just next to them in the next queue. Then going back and forth, not being able to solve. Is one person stands up and goes to the queue and talks. This happens in offshore, right?
Yeah.
And those problems are solved much faster. That's a learning I would take it.
Awesome.
Back to my leaders, I think I was lucky. I happened to work at Target. Unless you have a different question, I'll address that now.
No. Yeah, we can go there. Yeah.
Leadership lessons came from again, fortunate to land into people who eventually become CIOs, and that time, they were directors, senior managers, and how they look at the role of the people-oriented leaders. Before going into what you know and how you do it and all that, they're all people personalities, and prioritize that aspect of the work. Learning from them was immense. And I think I use learnings a lot in assessing people and trying to find the best in people and doing situational analysis. And that being part of my leadership style is, I think I'm lucky it has worked so far for me.
Thank you. So, when you have successfully developed omnichannel customer experiences, for you, what do you understand, or like how do you define customer loyalty in today's digital age?
That's a tough question for me. I mean, loyalty to me, we're talking in retail.
Yeah.
Loyalty is buying products and the experience of buying products.
Yeah.
Loyalty has to me, first the product has to be good. The product is not good, everything around it doesn't necessarily create loyalty. Second, if the product is good, the experience of buying it also has to be good. So in earlier days, you go to the retail store and buy it. It's the experience that the human interaction, you have that of the store, finding what you want, getting out of the store and checking out, and how easy is the checkout, how easy it is the return experience. All that matters to loyalty. So product has to be good, experience has to be good, that creates loyalty. Now in the digital age, the same thing still applies. Product is product.
Yeah.
So it doesn't change the product. But description of the product on the e-commerce site,
Yeah.
reviews, how accurate is the description? Many times you buy something that you think is this size, and it ends up in a different size, and that's not what you wanted. So how easy it is to actually understand the product based on the description and the pictures and everything matters. Then it is the experience of, you see, Amazon, I think that basically redefines everything that we do today. So the experience that is there in how the product is described and how you check it out and all that is creates loyalty.
Right.
In my opinion, I think loyalty has the post-purchase experience is also equally important. So at Finish Line, we used to have the three things, browse, buy, and then retain. Retain is actually about loyalty. Retain is about the post-purchase experience and what email did you get, did you get further coupons, and then if you had to return it, Now, how is is the return process? All that matters too. That's how I would define loyalty.
Yeah, I mean, like you have vast experience in really creating some of the data-driven omni-channel experiences. And today, with technologies like AI coming in, right? Like, and you could bring in AI-based search. There are the recommendation systems, and you can bring in gamification and all of it. Like, you have personally rolled out probably some of those kind of solutions as well. Can you actually spend few minutes and walk us through how have you approached your designing these experiences in order to kind of create maximum customer engagement?
So you talked about search, you talked about recommendation, you talked about
Gamification.
gamification. I think I have two different experiences I'm going to cite here. Search and recommendation kind of went hand in hand, I think. We implemented a product called Reflections, which probably is part of some other company now. And they brought in the AI, and there was intelligence in multiple layers, starting from if you search the wrong spelling, it will correct it, right? It knows what you actually want. I think the intelligence, the way I think about it is, no matter what you're asking, the system is able to read your mind to give you something you're more likely to buy. So if you spell it wrong, it knows what it is, then it will give you the right word. If you ask for the product, what it also does is it is looking at this point in time, what are the products that people are searching for in the ecosystem, their ecosystem, and uses that to curate the product. So your search and what others are searching, they curate it and provide yours as well as others. Filtration is important. And then it also provides products that are trending in general. And even though that's you may not be wanting that product, you see that, and then you might switch and say, that's what I want, or that's what I also want. So that is where I think AI and predictive analytics and recommendation come. And this was in 2019, I think. So I actually haven't kept track of how things have evolved with current ChatGPT and other AI right now. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping the modules will be a lot more smarter now.
Hmm.
Then you talked about gamification. So gamification is a very special application that we did, and it was because the product we sold was limited launches. So supply was always lesser than demand. It was a physical experience. People used to go and stand in front of the store when it was launched. It was just like Thanksgiving Day, every day or every week when it was happening. It used to cause a ruckus, and people used to break through the doors to get the products in demand, because they know that 1,000 people are standing for 200 shoes. Just picking up, that's the ratio. How we gamified it is we completely took it away from the physical store. The physical experience, we took it away from the physical experience to digital experience through an app. Then the gamification is there, when the product is launching, the date and the time. Then the process actually starts maybe 2 months early. It's like, hey, this is coming, you're interested in it, and it had the customer base that they have the app. So they start getting informed about the product in the app, and they start, if you're interested, put your name in, and every day, every week, there is more updates on that product and how it is trending, how the demand is happening. There used to be, I remember, hot button, fire kind of 3 fires, 2 fires, like that. How the demand is. And so the whole thing was gamified, because then ultimately it was a draw. Like it's a random draw, and so that's where it caused the experience from the store, physical fighting in front of the store, to there's no fighting here. It's a random draw, and you put your name, and depending on who you are, how often you shop, and what's your loyalty. It goes back to the previous question. There was weight is given in the random draw for they had a lot very complex algorithms to kind of split it. If I have 100, then 30 goes to loyal customers, 30 goes to new customers, 30 goes somewhere else. Right? So we use all that, and then I think eventually this entire system kind of redefined the industry, how this is done.
So I'm sure, doing all of this, you would have encountered a lot of complex technological challenges. So if you were to kind of pick one technological challenge that you have seen in the last 3 decades of your experience, where would that be? What comes to your mind, and what was the learning from that?
So I think the technology challenge I can think about that was almost very difficult to solve.
Okay.
And we did it in a very of the price was about bot management and throughput on the website when launch was done. What used to happen is when the product is launched, is thousands of or tens of thousands of people or machines hitting the website at the same time. And the website operations folks would restart the servers, and that was an ongoing issue like every Saturday. The operations people were very frustrated, and there's like the development, you need to do something about it. I was the director for the development. I'll go back and forth because I'm drawing this back from like 5 years back.
Yeah.
And we talked to Oracle was the system, Oracle Commerce, what is really causing this bottleneck. And there are so many people hitting the website. So you took a look at the funnel from the name, from the periphery to next level, all this software there. They're basically filtering traffic and still not able to filter enough. And what used to happen is the database basically used to lock. Eventually that's where the bottleneck was. And Oracle would say that, okay, you buy our database. I think that time what they were selling was very expensive. They said we have solved parallelism. We have solved this problem with parallelism in this database version. You go to buy that, and that's going to cost you $3 million, right? Compared to what we were paying $500,000, for example. That was the extent of what it was. How we solved it is actually based on my experience long back, about 10 years back from that time. I implemented a credit card system for Target. And every time you swipe your card, you create a transaction, and that transaction table used to be really, really big. And it was at that point in time, I think 1.6 billion rows. And it had the same problem of transactions getting stuck. And how it was solved is it was partition, data and all that. So I took that concept and then I talked to my architects and can we think about that concept? And our architects okay, so how we can take that concept and implement it here is no matter all this, you can have 10 servers, application servers through which website is coming. Eventually it is coming to one database. And one database for one product, there is one row of inventory. So if there is 10 shoes that are selling, then that is where the bottleneck is. It locks that row and releases it one by one. And that is why the traffic piles up and crashes the server, all the application servers. You can keep building more servers, doesn't help. So what we solved it is we redefined rather than one row for the product with 10 or whatever is the number of inventory available. Let's redefine this and put, if it's 10 number inventory, let's put 10 rows. Each row has only one. People laughed at it. It's like, what's the point of doing that? I said, then you lock one row at a time. Right? And you won't have multiple waiting web traffic for that row. So you basically take away that locking problem. When we implemented that, it was so fast. Forget about any traffic. It's just that concept. We didn't have to go for Oracle's parallel technology. We just used the architecture here, database architecture change, and it did the trick. The entire problem just went away. That created a different problem, which is, so the speed was like ether. There was no contention anywhere. So rather than human beings, whoever, a launch starts at 10 o'clock, So the bots, everybody clicks at the same time, but the people who, there are smart guys who have programmed bots to get it. So the bots used to get all the products and the real people didn't get it. So they complained, actual customers complained. And we have to figure out which one is the bot and which one is not. That is a pretty common problem.
Yeah.
And we had to take that commonality and, it's just like creating a jigsaw puzzle to how you come into the website actual site. By that time, you eliminated 99% of the bots. And that was another technological challenge that we solved without just through our geek minds that were part of the team. So I think these are the two biggest technology challenges I have solved in my entire career.
Yeah, and now if you come to think of like in the age of AI, like where there could be bots which are replaced by AI agents, like it could be similar issues. Some of the e-commerce companies or retail companies may face, and they might want to kind of solve, right? So
we call it the Ticketmaster problem because Ticketmaster has the same problem.
Yeah.
When they open up a sale for some tickets, then that's where they get.
Got it.
If you're a normal retailer, you don't have this issue. If you have this a lot of demand, like disproportionate set of demand compared to supply.
So now coming into your current role, Debesh, like how are you seeing the technology landscape evolve, and like what is something that you feel is more transformative in your organization? Of course, like AI can be there, like AI is always there around us. But apart from AI, what other technological innovations that you are seeing is far more relevant, and how are you actually driving that?
I am right now in a very 20 steps back situation.
Okay.
Happen to be leading a very small technical team.
Okay.
It's not even a technical team. It's a team of project independent. So they all have their own implementations. They're also very basic implementations. They don't have high tech or anything. Point of sale and in and around that. And they also use those point of sales, which is not the IBM or the Toshibas or the NCRs. That's not the volume, the price, and it's a different market segment. So my biggest challenge right now is to standardize into the point of sales and standardize the data definitions into those so that we can actually create some programs and data centrally, like on the product sales. Once we create that seamless pipe from central to the stores, then we can bring in a lot more value through our innovative business programs. Analytics comes into picture then, AI comes into picture then. It's not there right now. Using that, ultimately we'll solve what products the customers want the most. And if you can keep the right products at the right time at the right store, then that should help the stores.
Yeah. No, no, now we are sharing this current state. I want to kind of take a step back and say, like, when you transitioned into this role, so what kind of motivated you, or like, because you were probably working with some of the larger retailers and you have done a lot of, probably even a higher scale transformations and you have impacted that. So when you are coming to an environment where probably like it might not be so technologically advanced as the targets of the world. What was actually motivating you? Was this the opportunity to kind of make this technology transformation?
I think it is the opportunity. Think of it as in a scale of 1 to 100, target is at 100. So what you do, you can take it from 100 to, or target is at 80. What you do is you take it from 80 to 82 or 81. Like the percentage jump there. And we are here at a scale of below 10. So if I can move the needle 2 points here, that's a 20% lift, right? In both from top line, bottom line, and everything. So the impact I can make here is way higher than what other places opportunities provide. And I actually talked with one of my mentors that I talked about before joining this job, and that's exactly what he said. I'm just repeating. It's like you probably, and basically this is his words, is you probably will make an impact here in a year or two more than you have done in your entire career.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because not only you're helping these smaller retailers, individual retailers, you're also promoting what the business I'm in is natural and organic grocery.
Hmm.
So better foods
Hmm.
for people. And not only natural and organic, these are cooperatives.
Hmm.
So the model is very different. It's not for profit, it's member owned
Hmm.
stores.
Hmm.
Community is the number one priority. Good food is the number one priority.
Hmm.
Fair price, fair trade,
Hmm.
fair price. Those are the the driving factors of this business. So I think there's a holistic impact that is beyond just profit. It's more purpose than profit.
Got it.
Employment is a purpose, providing local employment.
Yeah. So that actually makes me think about this piece that, like, in an environment, like, especially in the kind of the business model that you are set up, right? Like, the stakeholders are far more than a very structured organization, perhaps like a Target or like, because Target or somebody like a large retailer, they have their own set of stores. So most of these technological decisions can be centralized and can be held at one particular level, right? So whereas here you are trying to kind of rope in so many other people, and as you said, like, it's a such a heterogeneous technological environment, each of them trying to use their own POS and all of it. So how do you really actually influence them to kind of help you in your vision?
I am trying to sell and influence right now. I tell people I have like a consulting job actually.
Hmm.
You're absolutely right. We don't have the authority to say this is how you do it. We got to influence and show why you want to do it
Hmm.
and how it will help you, the store or the cooperative, and how it will help the entire cooperative ecosystem that falls under our umbrella.
Hmm.
So it's a journey. I'm just starting it, so I wouldn't take credit of doing it.
Hmm.
I have tried to. I just made a presentation last week for the why behind it and what this journey entails
Hmm.
and how they can actually help each other by conforming to some of the standards that we are promoting.
Hmm.
I showed them that by standardizing the platforms and the definitions of data, ultimately that's what will enable us to go and get the holy grail, which is data that can be interpreted and mined, and you can apply all sorts of intelligence on top of it and find the right product in the right store at the right time.
Got it. Yeah, I mean that's why, like, I became curious about that part. So again, going back to some of your earlier experiences, right? When you are doing this large scale implementations, like what you did about the supply chain or the ERP or the merchandising, how do you ensure there is a successful technology transformation? Because there are also a lot of risks that you have to kind of account for. Has there been a kind of a playbook that you have developed over a period of time that is guiding you?
Yes, I'm a people first person,
Hmm.
and to me, technology transformations obviously they need to have the foundations of technology to make it work.
Yeah.
And what people often forget or it comes later is the change management.
Hmm.
Thinking about the change management, which means the actual users and how it is going to impact them, what are they doing today, what are they going to do in the future with our technology, is to me at the root of successful implementations. You got to think about it right up front and design everything based on that. And it has many ways to think about it. What is practically possible.
Hmm.
Sometimes we design systems that is practically so different than what is existing process that people don't even want. So sometimes I think I use that a lot to
Hmm.
kind of think through the change management and partner heavily with my business counterparts to ensure we do that correctly. I actually don't think technology is, these days, I don't even think that technology is the issue at all.
Yeah.
And there are ways to solve it when it becomes an issue. So my mind goes into what is changing and how it is going to impact the day-to-day life of the user, and how do we design the transformation based on looking at that impact and starting there.
Right. I mean, you have also dealt with a lot of this agile projects, right? Like, so you have implemented several agile product and engineering methodologies across these organizations. What are some of the most common pitfalls you have observed that companies face when adopting this agile methodology?
I actually have not seen a failure due
Okay.
to it,
Okay.
because the reason for that is I came late into Agile, so a lot of failures happened early cycle. And some of those failures I can, as for me, is people think that Agile means I don't have to plan,
Yeah.
I can change anytime, I don't have to do the requirements. And if you go with that philosophy,
Yeah.
when failure happens, because it might be agile, it doesn't mean that you don't have to, it doesn't mean that you don't think through the business priorities, it doesn't mean agile also has a very strict methodology to follow, and I was fortunate to be trained in scaled agile.
Hmm. Hmm.
We went through that agile process training, very rigorous, and we followed it to the T, which forced the business and IT to think through how to, it's not only the technology, but it really starts with you are doing it at the epic level, which is your high level business priorities. Then you go to the sub epics, features, you can remember functions, features, and all that, stories.
Hmm.
And when you follow that, then we also, now that's the concept. Then we also followed the quarterly planning cycles and get everybody together, having the stakeholders. I think there's another point of failure is like in the top stakeholders, if they say, okay, that's not for me, you guys decide what it is. That's not what Agile is. I think Agile forces that the key stakeholders need to be present in those. They need to be telling about the business case and why we're doing this, and they're listening to the, when it can be done, what is being done, and then it comes to the point like there's trade-off discussions that happens in the quarterly planning meetings. They need to be present. That, I think, all these things that needs to be done correctly to make it successful, the lack of those is why it fails. So that, I would say, is I think my experience. Failed projects are different. I've had many failed projects, so I've gone into many projects which has failed, and sometimes I have been able to save them. Other times, no matter how much you do, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Agile, to me, I think, is not the methodology. It's about, methodology is one of the reasons, but it is what you understand and how you use that methodology is what makes it success or failure.
So moving on to data and analytics is like very close to my heart, and especially when you are dealing with retail and you are making decisions, like or anybody in the business side. So it's all about what is available to them for the decision making, and in many aspects, data analytics can be underrated, right? Like our businesses might be missing out on few aspects. Key parameters. So while working with like Finish Line, Target, or like what was the most underrated aspect of data analytics that businesses you feel are missing out on?
What are the underrated aspects of analytics?
Yeah.
I think one thing that is overlooked, not underrated but overlooked, is the trust on the data. And I think at many companies, you build the data, you create the analytics, you create the report. So business doesn't trust that data. Business doesn't trust your recommendation or the outcome of the mind, the insight you get from the data. Building that trust, which also means using the right data, is the underrated challenge that people don't see.
So, and do you have any recommendations of like how somebody may be able to kind of win that trust from the business? Like whatever you are able to kind of produce out of the data analytics is something that the business can really rely on. Like, is there a way that
Yeah,
can be bridged?
I'll go back to different earlier implementation and experience, which kind of talks about or illustrates what that means, the challenge here. I think the answer to that is you have to be able to explain the insight, the data, whatever your product or your outcome, you've got to be able to explain. So early days in part of it, we did a project where we were supposed to take a chain level forecast and break it down to store level forecast using some complex logic. And phase one or iteration one of that, we did that with the heavy logic in there the clients had for us. Or there's always a middle group or a business user group that created the requirements, and we did that. Came out with a forecast and a lovely forecast. Business saw that, but that's where the trust comes. They did not trust the recommendation. The math that happened by the system, they did not trust it. They're like, how do I know this is the right? And it was not adopted. So the next quarter implementation was actually, I was part of it, is we broke down that from taking 1,000 and a forecast of 1,000 and breaking it down into, let's say, 100 stores or 200 stores. Some goes to 20 and some goes to 50 and some goes to 75 and some goes to 86. We created intermediate steps and reporting on the intermediate steps or insights into how the 1,000, step one, it takes these constraints to break it down into first level of break by region. Step two, it takes the region and breaks it down by using additional constraint. Step three, it takes third level of constraints and break it down. And this is by doing these three things, you reach the final level. By being able to explain how that happened, where we built the trust. And then it was accepted, okay, now that I know how this happened, I trust it.
I think that was a great explanation for like how leaders on the technology side should probably articulate and connect with the business and demonstrate the value of whatever they are building, not only from the data analytics standpoint of view, from whatever business solutions that they are trying to kind of enable to technology. Just moving on to a little more on your leadership, right? So you have had, the opportunity to manage technology budgets from like $1 million to kind of even $20 million. So how do you actually prioritize your investments strategically?
I've been part of teams which define the criteria for it. In most cases, it is the business that prioritizes, but the methods that I have followed or used is kind of typical big companies, big and small, will have 3 or 4 sets of criteria to prioritize. Then you'll have your must-do projects, compliance projects, those kind of things, security projects that has to be done. And that still gets prioritized, but there's a bucket allocated to that. Then there is the investments which you can actually prove with ROI calculations. Those are especially, true with operational projects, expensive projects. Then the projects which are strategic, which is, I don't know what will happen if I do this, whether there will be sales lift or not, but if you don't get into this technology now or don't explore and experiment, you'll be left behind. Or it could be pet project from the CEO or the CFO or whoever it is that they want to try something. So typically I've seen like 3 categories like that, and the budget is kind of allocated amongst them, and that guideline or that framework helps prioritize the budget.
Okay, got it. And again, in terms of the teams, also you have built very small teams, like say in your current organization. So you mentioned that you might not have a very large tech team, but you also have worked with like few hundred people in your team. So you did mention about the core philosophy of building the relationship, making that connect. Apart from that, is there any other leadership principle with the managers or technology leaders should think about, like when they are managing and leading a tech team?
Yeah, there are quite many frameworks that is there. There are many frameworks. You don't have to do everything. You got to choose one. I use a framework called situational leadership. It is by Ken Blanchard or Blankard, some
Ken Blanchard. Sure. Ken
Yeah.
Blanchard. Yeah.
You have the two by two. There is newbies, next level, experienced, and then so I think what I use that is, if you understand that model, you got to place people where which quadrant they are.
Yeah.
You as a leader need to flex your style to meet them where they are. So somebody who is new, they require a lot more direction. So your instructions will be more directed to them.
Hmm.
Somebody who is on the opposite end of the spectrum
Hmm.
is they know everything. They know more than you. They know more than many people, and they know what it is. It's more about just guiding and coaching them and motivating. So everything about how to motivate, how to get them contribute is different by that quarter,
Hmm.
and I use that.
Got it. There was like outside work, like no, you did mention you have a love for golf, fitness, travel. So how has those activities influence your approach to work in general and leadership and innovation?
I mean, they are very relevant. Fitness is a new thing for me. I mean, not that I was not fit before, but I've tried more right now.
Hmm.
Because two things happens, right? It makes you physically active
Yeah.
and fit. I had a lot of muscles issues, still have it, but I think over time it kind of going away or help mitigating a little bit because I'm trying to do things that help the physical body.
Yeah.
But while fitness, working out and doing things also, your mind kind of frees up and focuses on something else. Where was I going with this? It actually helps a lot in, one is decompress and but also one is thinking through in
Hmm.
those moments outside of being in front of a computer.
Hmm. Maybe it gives you some personal space for you to
Absolutely.
engage with your thoughts.
And it's a physical thing. And when you're trying to do more things like physically, I think it also motivates, prepares you to handle more things mentally too. And I tell that to my kids too. You got to work out in some form. It'll actually help you. That time, that half an hour you or 45 minutes or you take out of work
Yeah.
actually works in your favor because it makes you a lot more productive in some way I cannot quantify.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Golf, I'm not a great golfer. I just play for the sake of it.
Hmm.
The thing I enjoy in golf is being outside and being with nature and
Connecting with
the
people.
greenery outside, which actually helps clear your thinking and make refreshes you and all that. No
Yeah.
matter where you live, golf course is always going to be the most green and nature
Yeah.
for you. So that's why I play golf. I do use some of the techniques or similarities from golf to real life projects.
Hmm.
In golf, like you start a project, then you're in the middle, then you're in the end, and then you put it there. So each phase of that has a completely different mindset.
Hmm.
Some parts are common that applies to all.
Hmm.
Other parts, I don't know if you play golf. Other parts are
Oh, I
different.
mean.
So if you're hitting from the beginning, which is called the tee, it's a different mindset. Your goal is different. If
Hmm.
you're hitting from the middle, your goal is different. Yes, what is common is your body and your swing and everything is different. But you got to make lots and lots of right choices along the way
Hmm.
and read the green, read the tea leaves, read everything. So
Hmm.
I think in a real life IT project, technique or technology situations, or even people situation, leadership situations,
Yeah.
they are very similar.
Got it.
And a project in its inception stage, design stage, testing stage, and
Yeah.
implementation stage, they
Yeah.
all require some things are similar across the board, and some things are mindset that needs to change. What you're focusing on. So that is a lots of. I can speak another 30 minutes on this if I want to.
No, that was good. Thank you. So, no, though you might not be using all the cutting edge technology currently in your role, I'm sure that you are very watchful of how the retail and the supply chain technology might be evolving, right? So, are there any pointers or like, are you excited about some technologies that are shaping the retail and the supply chain industry in general as of now?
I actually don't know what is shaping now other than everybody is talking about AI. In fact, I even advised an AI company.
Okay.
We have identified a white space where in retail where AI can be used to bring the selling side to the planning side there.
Okay. Great.
Other than AI right now, I mean, if you think about stores is, I can think about is how much effort goes in the shelf labels space. And I recently read that Walmart went into digital shelf labels for many of its stores and how efficient it is. So I think that is exciting. We haven't done that in my company or any of my stores, but people are thinking about that. It has not gotten traction because it is expensive. Like RFID, at what point it makes sense to create an ROI and you buy it, you invest in it. Supply chain side, I did a lot of supply chain, but not recently. There is always efficiencies gained within the distribution center and in the transportation route.
Yeah.
With supply chain, that when you can peel the layers of the onion and it keeps giving. Back in container store, we did a lot of things that help the supply chain. It is unfortunate container store is not, the sales are not the greatest, but
Yeah.
we were able to shave a lot of expenses by improvements in the supply chain. In my year, there was a lot of, I was in charge of the DCs there, and a lot of automation went into some of the new DCs they built. When I say a lot, complete automation.
Yeah.
European style distribution centers. What actually excites me is retailers are all over the space in their technology journey. So things that was valid 10 years back as an opportunity or 15 years back as an opportunity is still valid today for some retailers.
Yeah, that's a great.
And I'm classically there. I'm in a retail sector where they need to become current, right?
Right, right.
And so as I have gone from company to company, I think, and I was fortunate to be in Target, which was leading edge.
Yeah.
Maya and other things, slowly they all adopted technology that was already used in Target.
Got it.
Yeah, I cannot, other than AI and digital shelf levels, and AI is everywhere. Just saying AI actually is not doing justice to it.
Yeah.
How it gets applied to each technology is what's different. Right? I think right now, if you think about it, I think about the companies like Macy's, JCPenney, Nordstrom, they have been struggling. I cannot say about Nordstrom, but if you think about JCPenney, Macy's, Bell, no matter what they invest in technology, that whole business model is changing that nobody really knows how it works anymore. So, yes, that's not exciting for me, but that's an area of challenge. Like how
Right.
do I guys figure out?
Yeah, and Debesh, like, just moving on to probably the last section here. If you had to distill your entire career's learnings into one guiding principle, what would that be?
For me, it is what business problem are you able to solve?
Interesting. I think very profound.
I don't necessarily enjoy technologies for the sake of technology.
Yeah.
I like technology to solve real life problems. So what I distill out of this is no matter where you stand, there are problems, and how can you leverage technology to solve them or solve the ones that are most important.
I'm sure, like, you do read books. So, is there a book recommendation for that has influenced you the most and which you feel like is a must read for people who are listening to this?
There are so many books that I don't have any recent recommendations right now. I think some books over time that has impressed me is, and this is date. This is one book we read during our MBA was the Innovator's Dilemma. Right, that is a classic.
Clayton.
Who's
Clayton Christensen.
yes, his book, and then the Other one that comes to mind was The Goal, Henry Goldratt.
Yeah.
And you will not believe how many times the concepts of goals is what you see in a company, in operations. It's valid today everywhere. And I use that actually. I mean, not that I use the concept from the goal, but it's just in my mind there. Where is the bottleneck, and you keep chasing the bottleneck. And it keeps moving. Like in a certain company, we want to move inventory.
Yeah.
We move it. The bottleneck is in the pipeline. You move it, and from one state it goes and sits in the other state. Whether you keep it in the store, whether you keep it in the DC, and then what's the logic to go optimize it?
Yeah.
That's that goal. The goals principle. I also like any of the books from Malcolm
Glad.
Gladwell, Blink and all that. That Blink is a great book. It tells no, it's not Blink. It's the other one. Next one.
Outliers.
Outliers was the recent one. The one before the tipping point.
Tipping point.
Right? So all those books I like.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's another book I liked was Freakonomics.
Mm.
How it has actually it has taught me how to interpret data in a lot of ways. And fun books are also good. Like when I was a kid,
Yeah.
Treasure Island was my most favorite book,
Mm. Yeah.
and I will see mention I probably read it 20 times in my life over and over again. There are things there in that thing that those kind of novels that actually stay in your mind, and even though they're fiction,
Yeah.
there is a lot to learn there.
Yeah.
And I also read my favorite was the Sherlock Holmes series,
Mm.
and there's a lot of learning there too. How we
Thank you.
think.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing some of those good recommendations there. And finally, if you could leave our audience with one key insight or challenge, what would it be?
One key insight. Well, I think my insight is that
So that you can take it. That's fine,
no. So what I would share is what is important in life, whether you're a company or individual. What is important? It's always going to be I believe in balance.
Hmm.
Let's put it that way. Balance of the present and the future, and learning from the past is how I look at life. I don't want to look at the future so much that I forget what the present is, and it just goes away before I know. So when the things that I say that money cannot buy or you cannot create, one is time, one is your mind share,
Hmm.
what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you can control or get to control where you spend your mind share, which eventually will lead to how you spend your time, then I think you'll have a much more fulfilling life, both professionally and personally. That is what I would like to leave people is where am I spending my time, and where am I spending what am I thinking about my mind. Many people, for us, like these days, mind share is very important because the mind is so fragmented with social media and everything that is happening around us and the need for information yesterday, that having a chunk of time allocated to do some thinking or do some learning is actually very, very rewarding. And last bit before this job, I had time off that I took some classes and went pretty deep, and I actually enjoyed that time doing not worrying about certain things and activities, but this is my time to replenish myself. That was helpful.
Thank you so much actually for taking out your time on a Friday evening, and it has really been very insightful for me. I had a lot of learning in this conversation. I hope you enjoyed it too. I'm really grateful for doing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for allowing me and bringing me in. Actually, your questions were very insightful. I woke up at 4 a.m. today to kind of think through those. Uh, to be honest, I did not have the time, and I was going to text you, can we defer it another month? Then I said, let me do it, but it was so insightful, helped me go through down the memory lane, and made me feel good about all the things that you have learned and experienced and delivered and all that. So thank you for those questions, and let's be in touch.
Yeah, sure.